evening and welcome to the April 9th, 2019 Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education meeting. I am Shay Woodbury, the board chair, and I appreciate your attendance and also say good evening to our viewers on Cable 2. Will you please rise as we start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing during our invocation given by board member Deanna Kaplan. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, we are going to have a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first order of business tonight is the agenda review. I will say that there was a misprint on our hard copy agenda, and so we should have an item on our discussion regarding the House Bills 490 and 518, or the House bills that have been proposed, should I say. So if you didn't see it but still want to speak about that by way of speaking on the agenda items, then we can get your name on the public comments for the agenda item. But other than that correction, are there any other corrections? All right. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda?
I'll approve. Any opposed? All right. All right, so we'll approve the agenda. Next, we will have special recognitions, and I'm going to transition up to the.
You want them to present first, Chair Woodbury?
Yes.
Okay. So good evening. I am here to introduce a couple of special recognitions. First one is on National Autism Awareness Month. Autism is a developmental disorder typically diagnosed during the first 3 years of life. The Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools employ qualified and caring individuals who educate and work daily to improve the lives of students with autism. April is designated as National Autism Awareness Month to increase public awareness of the need to support individuals and the family members, educators, and other professionals who teach and care for individuals with autism. You will have an opportunity later in this meeting to consider approving a resolution in support of April as National Autism Awareness Month. Will Rasmussen is a 7th grade student at Paisley IB Magnet School, and he has a passion for advocating for individuals with autism. Tonight, he would like to share his story and some information with you. It is my honor to introduce Mr. Will Rasmussen.
First of all, I would like to thank the board for allowing me to speak tonight. As she's already said, my name is Will Rasmussen, and I attend Paisley IB Magnet School. I'm currently in year 2, otherwise known as 7th grade. What is autism? Autism is a difference in how someone thinks and learns. You are born with it, you cannot catch it. Autism never goes away. It's also something that varies from person to person. Autism is a spectrum ranging from high functioning, autism like I have, to severe autism, which can be debilitating. Autism is a difference in the brain that can cause lack of focus and may make it seem like people with autism are intentionally being difficult, but it's not their fault. In my case, I was not diagnosed until third grade. That is the age when you are expected to start really socializing. But I was often found alone on the playground. How does autism affect me? Autism makes it so that I do not understand what people are thinking and makes it hard for me to understand what people need me to do. Autism affects my ability to clearly communicate my needs. At school, it makes it so that I have very few friends and some people really don't like me. I think this is because I can say something that can be interpreted as rude when I'm just stating the facts. Autism also affects my ability to organize and remember to turn in my assignments. These things together can sometimes cause me to feel helpless and unimportant. What can the school board, teachers, and students do to help kids like me? Teachers can help me by being patient and kindly reminding me to complete my assignments. They can also help me by understanding that sometimes I may need accommodations in class that they were not expecting, and that my needs may change from day to day. Not jumping to conclusions or immediate solutions before taking time to understand what is happening. Realizing that punishing a kid could worsen their chances in the future and cause more problems. You cannot punish the autism out of a person. Teachers could also help me with my social interactions by becoming more informed about autism and its effects on kids. The school board can help me by making it possible for teachers to go to autism and other disability trainings. And fixing the bus route so that it does not take 2 hours for me to get home, even though I live 5 minutes from the school. By the time I get home, my medicine is wearing off, and it's hard for me to do my homework. My classmates can help me by being understanding of the fact that I might need them to tell me directly what they want me to do or understand, instead of giving me social cues that I understand. In summary, kids with autism can be successful in school if they have the right amount of support. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I hope you will consider what I have said about how teachers and students can help me and others with autism. Does the school board have any questions?
Thank you, Will.
If the parents of Will could stand up so that we could recognize you here. Thank you. On behalf of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education, we do have a resolution celebrating National Autism Awareness Month, whereas autism is a developmental disorder typically diagnosed during the first 3 years of life, robbing individuals of their ability to communicate and interact with others. Whereas in November 2015, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's National Health Statistics Report concluded the prevalence of autism spectrum disorder has risen to 1 in every 45 children in the United States. Whereas autism is 4 times more likely to occur in boys than in girls, but can affect anyone regardless of race, ethnicity, or other factors. Whereas in 2015, it was estimated the United States incurred approximately $268 billion in costs for autism research, educational spending, housing, transportation, employment, therapeutic services, caregiver costs, other insurance, and non-covered expenses, and productivity losses. Whereas early diagnosis and intervention programs lead to significantly improved outcomes for individuals with autism. Whereas the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools employs qualified and caring individuals who educate and work daily to improve the lives of students with autism. And whereas April 2019 is designated as National Autism Awareness Month to increase public awareness of the need to support individuals with autism and the family members, educators, and other professionals who teach and care for individuals with autism. Therefore, be it resolved by the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education as follows, that it celebrates National Autism Awareness Month from April 1st through 30th, 2019, that it recognizes and commends the family members of children with autism for their sacrifices and dedication in providing for the special needs of children with autism, that it stresses the need to begin in early intervention services soon after a child is diagnosed with autism in an effort to improve potential outcomes for people with autism, and lastly, that it salutes the teachers, paraprofessionals, and other educators who possess the desire, caring, and skills necessary to teach, assist, and respond to special needs students, including those with autism, and who work tirelessly to educate and provide programming for special needs students enrolled in the district. Thank you.
Next, we would like to recognize National Volunteer Week. Normally, Jennifer Cobb with the Winston-Salem Chamber of Commerce is with us to make these recognitions. She's unable to be here tonight, so I am introducing folks on her behalf. Each day, hundreds of volunteers enter our schools and devote time and energy to the students of this district. They provide invaluable services to staff members in need of an extra set of hands. This year, National Volunteer Week is this week, April 7th through 13th. To help us celebrate this event, we have 3 volunteers with us to represent the district's army of tireless heroes. Each volunteer shares a commitment to their school, and the principals are here to share some of their specific contributions with you. You will hear from Donald Wyatt from Sedge Garden Elementary, Robin Willard from Haynes Magnet, and Rodney Bass from East Forsyth High School. Mr. Wyatt, if you would.
Good evening. Chairwoman Woodbury, Dr. Symington, board members, thank you for having us. First and foremost, I would like to apologize to Mr. Miller. There is no way I can say anything tonight that will even put a shimmer on what he does for the Sedge Garden community. But I'm going to try. Mr. Miller is known throughout our school by many names. Mr. Miller, Mr. Ben, the guy with Philippe. But whatever name he is known by, he is known for being willing to help any child. Many times you will find Mr. Ben on the floor, singing or reading to a class full of students, or a single student who needs a little extra help. Anytime a child is upset, anxious about going to class, is having a bad morning, or just isn't feeling it today, you will find Mr. Ben right there to help calm down that child, refocus them for the day, and get them back to the learning that is to be done. Mr. Ben is a calming presence throughout our building, which we sure need this week before spring break. Mr. Ben is also willing to help the staff of Sedge Garden. He takes homework or lunches to children who accidentally left it at home. He helps at car riders, and sometimes, when you're having a hard day, he's just there to tell you a funny joke. Sedge Garden would not be the same without Mr. Ben, and we can't thank him enough for his service to our students, family, and community. Thank you, Ben.
Good evening. I'd like to take the time to thank Mrs. Colleen Lupino, who has served on the PTSA board and served on the Grounds Beautification Chair for Haynes Magnet School. The position has been held by her for 8 years, with the exception of 1 year when we had a gap between her children. She's maintained the campus and numerous garden beds. With the help of Stephanie Kennedy, our PTSA chair, she supplied and won grants from our Garden Council last spring and used those funds to build 3 garden beds near our back pods and classrooms. She's also organized and run numerous beautification workdays for parents and students. Our largest event was the Great American Cleanup with Keep Winston-Salem Beautiful last April, which is our annual event for school community. A team of over 50 parents, grandparents, teachers, students, and siblings volunteered on that day. They cleaned up trash, did yard work, planted flowers, and worked in the garden beds where our school garden has grown hundreds of pounds of vegetables to help feed help our people eat. She has volunteered with the PTSA and school activities such as open houses, informal sessions, and school dances. For the past 6 years, she has served on the Academically Intellectually Gifted Advisory Council as a parent representative. She attends committee meetings, learns about the gifted programming our school system provides, and also conducts research on our practices and services for gifted students. I'd also like to mention that she has spent a tremendous amount of time serving the Brunson community as well over the past many years. So please help me thank Ms. Colleen Lupino.
Good evening. I'm Rodney Bass, principal at East Forsyth High School. Good evening, Chairwoman Woodbury, members of the board, Dr. Symington. Tonight I'm joined by Miss Sarah Devane, our Volunteer of the Year. Sarah is the mother of 4 children. She has a child over at Cash Elementary, Ella, who I've been sitting beside and learning a lot about some art on the phone. Thank you, Ella. Braden, who's a 6th grader over at KMS, and Colin and Dylan, who are with me at East Forsyth High School. Sarah has been with us for 4 years and is a committed and dedicated volunteer at East Forsyth High School. She specifically devotes her time to the East Forsyth Friends of the Theater Booster Organization, where she has served as president for the last 2 years. She commits her time to helping the director and the student artists involved in the Talon Theatrical Company at East. She spends countless hours running errands, searching for and acquiring sponsors for our shows, organizing and executing fundraisers, and catering to every need of a show to ensure that it is successful. She embodies the company's motto, good to great and great to exceptional. Her hard work and dedication to the program are shown in the countless hours of volunteer time and the pure love and devotion she shows to the kids involved. In fact, over the last week, I've talked to several members of our theater, and I've learned a new name for Sarah, and it is Mama D. So thank you, I found out that name. She, just like the shows she helps produce at East, are truly exceptional, and that is Miss Sarah Devane.
On behalf of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education, we do have a resolution celebrating our volunteers, whereas the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools teachers and staff welcome involvement of school volunteers each year, and whereas our school volunteers are parents, guardians, and caring adults committed to improving their school and community, and whereas our school volunteers are corporate and business employees who give their time and expertise to help improve student achievement, and whereas our school volunteers are members of the community who serve as a valuable curriculum resource by sharing knowledge and experience in the classroom, and whereas our school volunteers are our students who are learning and developing leadership skills as they provide volunteer services to our schools and community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education expresses its gratitude and appreciation to all of our school volunteers for the invaluable contributions provided to the education of students. This is the 9th day of April 2019. Thank you. As we continue with our special recognitions, I'm going to have Stephanie Daniel come up to recognize the North Carolina School-Based Health Alliance Principal of the Year.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm Stephanie Daniel, and I serve as the Executive Director with the School Health Alliance for Forsyth County. And I'm excited to share with you some good news from the North Carolina School-Based Health Alliance. The North Carolina School-Based Health Alliance is a nonprofit organization that provides training and technical assistance and advocacy that supports accessible, affordable, and quality health care in school-based health centers across the state of North Carolina. The North Carolina School-Based Health Alliance is an affiliate of the National School-Based Health Alliance. Each year, the North Carolina School-Based Health Alliance invites nominations from school-based health centers across the state to recognize a principal who has shown extraordinary support to the school-based health center in their school. Through their actions and behavior, the Principal of the Year nominees must also show evidence of their understanding of the connection between health and education and believe that school-based health centers keep students healthy and in school, which enhances their academic success and contributes to improved graduation rates. The School Health Alliance for Forsyth County submitted a nomination to the North Carolina School-Based Health Alliance in recognition of the support that our school-based health center has received from Ms. Melita Wise, the principal at North Forsyth High School. Our nomination was based on Ms. Wise's support and interest in helping us to grow a school-based health center at North Forsyth High School, her support and encouragement for conducting risk assessments with students with the goal of connecting them to needed health and mental health services, and her vision and efforts to grow the educational offerings and health-related course content at North Forsyth High School as part of the Health Science Magnet Program. The Health Science Magnet Program provides exposure to a very wide range of health-related careers and pathways for our students, creating career opportunities for many of the students who stay local after graduation. It is my pleasure to share with you this evening that Ms. Wise was selected among all nominees from across the state as the North Carolina School-Based Health Alliance Principal of the Year, and was recognized at the North Carolina School-Based Health Alliance Annual Conference in March as this year's award recipient. So please join me in celebrating Ms. Melita Wise.
If I could, I would just like to thank Dr. Symington, who, when we first tried to bring this service to our students, gave us permission to do it. And I appreciate the support of Ms. Daniel and her team in helping us expand it from one person 2 days a week to now a staff of 5 or 6, I think. And we've got almost full-time services for health care and more than full-time services for behavioral health. So thank you.
For our last special recognition, Tammy O'Quinn will come up and recognize the BB&T Project Hope donation.
First of all, I'd like to thank the school board for allowing me the opportunity to thank an organization in our community for a huge donation to our program. And I am Tammy O'Quinn, as she just introduced me. I am our district's homeless liaison, and I work with a homeless program in our school district called Project Hope. And we provide services to homeless students and families in our school district. And we were fortunate enough to be approached by BB&T back in the fall, inquiring about our homeless program, because they were doing some research in Florida with their homeless program. And so during that conversation, she meaning Wendy Wingrove from BB&T, wanted to see how they could support our program in our school district. And so provided her with lots of information about what we do in our community. And so back in February, we received notification that we were receiving funding, and they did allot us $50,000 to provide services to our students and families by way of providing some support with housing, education, and then overcoming barriers. And so at this time, I would like to introduce BB&T John Stokes.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
As mentioned, my name is John Stokes, and I'm with BB&T Community Development. I bring you greetings from Kelly King, our CEO, and Sharon Jeffries-Jones, our Director of our Community Development Department. As many of you are aware, BB&T has a long history of being committed to the community. And to her point, Kelly actually saw an episode on 60 Minutes several years ago, and it talked about students that were living in Florida that were homeless. And it touched his heart, and it touched his spirit, and he decided to create this homeless initiative. And so I think many of you realize that all students have challenges, but some have more challenges than others. And then to be homeless and then be asked to go into the classroom and learn, that's a tough order. And so BB&T is proud to partner with Project Hope. We also had the opportunity to partner with Dr. Roseborough with Inspire 340 to help the teachers and provide incentive for them in their particular neighborhood. So again, we remain committed. We realize that change is inevitable, but with our eyes on the future, we will remain committed to this community as we move forward. So thank you very much, and thank you to the board.
Thank you. If you would like to take a minute with our board members, we appreciate it. Our next item on the agenda is the public comments on agenda items. Please know that we reserve this time to hear comments only on the items that are on tonight's agenda, either for action or discussion. Direct your comments to only me as the chair, and know that while we are not able to respond, I may direct you to a staff member that can answer a question when appropriate. We do ask that you be respectful, kind, and no, we cannot talk about sensitive and private student or personnel information in this public setting. While we hope it doesn't, should the comments become personal attacks, contentious, or otherwise disruptive, I reserve the right to end the comment period. You will have 3 minutes to speak, and if you have more time to share, if you have more information to share, you can always email us directly. Thank you. Our first person is Mr. Al Jabbar. And he's going to speak about HB, I think, 518.
Good evening, Chairperson Woodbury,
Good evening.
Dr. Symington, and the board. I bring you greetings. You know, when I looked at this bill, I'm trying to figure out what's really going on here. Because there's something that keeps coming up that boggles my mind, and it says inexperience. Well, we had 4 people remaining on this board from the previous board. So I'm trying to figure out how we all of a sudden become an inexperienced board. Let me share with you that this board has created opportunities for the community to engage in the workings of the school board. We never had that before. So I want to applaud you with your inexperience, that you have saw it necessary to do the things that the voters voted you in to do. Now, I scratch my head because I meant to ask you for 2 extra minutes. I scratch my head because, you know, sometimes when you don't get what you want, and then you try to figure out, how can I change this to bring back my power? So what they're trying to do to our board is to tell us we need to stagger roll-offs. But we're working well right now. So what's happened? Is this because we got the first time female board? Is that the reason? Or is it because we have an African-American chairperson? Or is somebody feeling sexist when it comes to all our ladies sitting up here? I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. So what I would like for this board to do is stand in solidarity and say to the voters that we do not agree with this bill. Now you gotta let your Republicans and Democrat friends and all, let them know you stand for what's right. And this is not right. And as voters, we're not gonna tolerate it. We're not gonna have it. We got Brother Lambert and Sister Conrad. They must don't have much to do down in Raleigh because they sit around and try to figure out some stuff that they want to change around. Our primary responsibility is educating our children. We don't want to get caught up in all this political mess. We want to do the things that's going to allow our kids to move from low performing, not growth, but proficiency, so that we can see some gains that our kids are making. So now they want to break up something that is beginning to flourish. Beginning to flourish. So we, the people, ask that you stand in solidarity. Let us know that you're against this so we can move together in unity.
Thank you, Mr. Jabbar. Next, we have Mr. Alan Daniel.
I'm Alan Daniel, parent of 2 students in the district. Chair Woodbury, members of the board, Dr. Symington, thank you for the opportunity. I would like to address, as Mr. Jabbar did, which is House Bill 490, but also House Bill 518. House Bill 490 did indeed proposed to stagger the terms of the board. My argument would be that Mr. Lambeth was in charge of this board at one time. He could have done it while he had the power. We didn't ask him to go to Raleigh and come back and stick his nose in our business. This is our business. This is our district. The people of this district, while I may not have voted for every one of you, I voted and the people spoke. The majority of the people asked you to represent us as members of the board under the terms under which you were elected. Nobody asked him to go to Raleigh and change the rules of the game because his team didn't win. Okay? The second one is Mr. Lambeth thinks that now, since we have a new board that might not make decisions that he likes, that they need to take the power to change where our students go to school and give it to the county commissioners. That's House Bill 518. That you all, and you know this, you all would have to go to the county commissioners and get their approval to change the district where kids go to school, the choice, whatever you want to call it. Okay? Once again, we the people, the majority, elected you to make the decisions for education in our district. We didn't ask the county commissioners. To my understanding, none of you all, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, asked for either one of these bills. To my knowledge, our county commissioners didn't ask to be given the responsibility for school choice. I'm working on finding out whether that's true or not. So Mr. Lambeth seems to take it upon himself to go to Raleigh and solve problems that don't exist. I encourage you, I encourage every educator in this district, and I encourage every voter in this district to stand united and say, we are Winston-Salem Forsyth County. We'll make our decisions ourselves. Thank you very much. It should be clear to Mr. Lambeth and Ms. Conrad that we elected you under the rules that stood when the election was held, and we don't want the rules changed in the middle of the game. If another board comes, or if you all decide to make those decisions yourself and ask that the legislature introduce a bill, since I support you, I support that. But until you ask for his help, I think he needs to step back. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Alfred Harvey.
Good evening, Chairman Woodbury.
Good evening.
Distinguished board, Dr. Symington. I'm almost at a loss for words because everything that I was going to say, Mr. Jabbar and Allen said. But I will say this much. I was at a meeting last night, and the moderator of that meeting asked everybody on the panel a question. Did anyone from your group ask for or promote 518 and 490, 480, whatever that, 490, whatever that thing is. And our school board chair stood up bravely and said, no. And I sit there and I sort of cringed because I said, how could she know that? How could she know that? If you all hadn't talked about it, or someone had talked to you about it. And I just want to say this. If you are part of that conspiracy that originated with Donnie Lambert, Conrad Schrader, or whatever her name.
Come on, Mr. Harvey, you know how we, okay.
I say that because when you do what they are doing, they deserve no respect because they are taking the will of the people away from the people. And they are determining that they are the benefactors or they know more about what should go on in Forsyth County and Winston-Salem than anyone else. Now, if they take away your authority as a board to do the things that you plan on doing in terms of reassigning and building and doing all these things, and they give it to the county commissioners, then that means that you know more than a committee. They've taken away your authority. I believe, according to as what Alan just said, that this board should unanimously agree to send those two individuals condolences, letting them know that you did not ask for it, you do not want it, and that we can continue the way we're going. Mr. Jabbar brought up the fact that we had 4 veterans on this board, and I don't think, I think these 4 veterans are strong enough in their opinions. I know Ms. Motsinger is, I know Ms. Jones is, I know Ms. Hayes, Ms. Clark. Can't get anything past those ladies. So I think you all need to stand up as one in a loud voice and say no to these proposals.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Harvey. Next, we have Rhonda Mays.
Good evening, Chairwoman Woodbury, the board, and Dr. Symington. I'm Rhonda Mays, a school social worker here in the district, serving as full-time release president of Forsyth County Association of Educators. I stand before you to speak on House Bill 490 as well as House Bill 518. And you pretty much have gotten the gist of what both of the bills are talking about. But what I want to just add is the fact that each entity, each of the boards have their own responsibility and duties. And we do have checks and balances for a reason. If the residents and the constituencies in Forsyth County had come and said, we don't want all of our school board members to be elected at one time, then that's when we go and make a proposal and ask for help in making those changes happen. But for someone who's sitting in another government entity, another part of our government, to just come and say, this needs to happen and this is why, I don't think it's a fair thing. Each of you have gone through your particular training and the classes that you need to go through to be a school board member. You know your duties and your responsibilities. And to say that we can prevent from having a totally new board, yes and no. Because who says that someone is going to run for re-election? Someone may say one and done. I don't want to run again. So you can still have a all-new board at any given time. So this does not address that issue. And then to turn around and ask our county commissioners to be responsible for a piece that takes place and is housed within our school board, for them to begin to make the decisions on whether or how students are assigned, that makes no sense either. They have not been a part of this process. They don't know the ins and outs of our school district. We elected you, and we have you doing the job that we need you to do. Please continue to stand firm and let them know that you were elected for and by the people here in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. Thank you for what you're doing, and we're looking forward to us continuing to work together to make our school district the best district in North Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Elizabeth Cohen.
Hello. Hey, have to get my screen up. Hi, I am Bibby Coyne, and I'm a parent in the school system, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Haynes Park Community Volunteers about the agreement between the city and the school system concerning Haynes Park. This year marks the 20-year regular renewal of the agreement between the city and schools regarding their shared use of Haynes Park. It is my understanding that city and school staff have been discussing the agreement since August of last year, and that until today's Building and Grounds Committee meeting, both parties felt that the agreement was mutually beneficial. I want to point out that this is a long-standing relationship that has served all parties well over a full century, 100 years. There is immense value for the schools in maintaining a good relationship with the city regarding Haynes Park. The agreement is in place to maintain the balance of that relationship. It says the schools and the city must stay in touch with each other over use of the park, and any temporary changes by one are subject to approval by the other. Any permanent changes must go through a larger public process involving the neighborhoods and other city commissions. This process worked very well, for example, a few years ago when the city of Winston-Salem invited all stakeholders to participate in developing the Haynes Park Repair and Improvement Plan. Included were the school system, the neighborhood, small businesses, and large, such as the YMCA, park supporters, and Home Field Advantage, a group of private citizens associated with Reynolds Athletics. The development of the park plan was an ideal model of the type of open, transparent process that we citizens expect of our leaders when making significant changes to a historic public property. We are just now beginning to see the rewards of this collaborative planning and investment. For example, the softball field is coming together and it is looking exceptional. Because it is an asset intended to be used by citizens in schools, and because it is in a designated historic district, it is my understanding that great pains were taken to design the field in accord with all concerns as supervised by all parties and then presented to the Historic Resources Commission for approval. I am surprised to hear this questioned now. You, the school board, are a party to this agreement, and you have a duty to serve all students. That includes Wiley students who use the green space of their campus as an extension of their classrooms, as well as those who use the park after school and on the weekends, not just those athletes who make up teams. So often when we speak of expanding learning opportunities, if I could just complete, I recognize there is a desire to change the nature of the agreement between the city and the schools in Haynes Park, and something that has been brewing for some time in various ways within the school system, and it has resulted in building tensions in our community. I would hope that the school system would acknowledge these tensions and address them responsibly. I urge you to reconsider questioning the agreement. There's immense value for the schools in maintaining a good relationship with the city in regards to Haynes Park, but the bottom line is, while Haynes Park serves many, Haynes Park is a public park.
Thank you. Next we have Katie Sonnen Lee.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Katie Sonnen Lee. I'm on the board for Action for Equity, and I also wanted to speak about House Bill 518 and 490. I'm passing out Action for Equity statement on these two bills, and I'm going to read it for the record since this is the part of the meeting that's recorded. State Representative Lambeth and Conrad filed two local bills on March 28, 2019 that would alter the elections and powers of the elected Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Board. 518 would transfer final approval of any changes to student assignment policy from the Board of Education to the Board of County Commissioners. House Bill 490 would stagger the terms of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Board. Action for Equity, a group created to promote equity in Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools, is issuing the following statement. Our children deserve to be educated in a school district that is equitable and where decisions are made with community input in mind. Unfortunately, with the filing of HB 518 and HB 490, our state representatives are putting partisan politics over the education of our children and the needs of our community. HB 518 attempts to strip the school board of their lawful authority over student assignment and instead would give final approval to the county commissioners. If passed, Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools would be the only school district in the state where the democratically elected Board of Education does not have the final authority to determine matters of student assignment. HB 490 attempts to stagger school board elections by separating District 2 seats from the same election cycles as District 1 and at-large seats. District 1 is a minority-majority district. One possible impact of the proposed legislation would be to reduce minority voter impact. At-large elections limit the influence of minority voters in the election of at-large seats, the rationale for the district's model in the first place. The 2024 school board election would only involve 2 representatives from District 1 and 3 at-large representatives. This move would unequally impact the 2 districts, reduce the influence of minority voters on the school system, and would fail to establish continuity necessary to analyze and correct the long-term problems that exist in Winston-Salem-Forsyth County schools. Both HB 518 and HB 490 are part of a continuing effort to undermine the democratic process in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County for partisan gain. The Winston-Salem-Forsyth County Board of Education is the elected body charged with ensuring all children in the district receive an excellent and equitable education. As such, voters have entrusted the Board of Education, you all, to make informed decisions on important education policies such as student assignment. Representatives Lambeth and Conrad need to do right by our children and let the school board maintain control over student assignment. Thank you.
Next, we have Emily Schultz.
Good evening. I echo what's been said, and I hope to see a strong united front opposing the House Bill 518. I'm angry at the overstep of our representatives, and that, quite frankly, we're spending time and energy on this. What a distraction. There's a lot of work to be done, and it should not be, our attention should not be on this. I want to say I appreciate the meeting minutes from the committee meetings that have been online. That's been very helpful. And the new agenda with the meetings on the back, that's wonderful, thank you. And Spanish, awesome. And I believe Ms. Calvert-Hayes said that the policy committee is looking into how to make the public comments public. So thank you for working towards transparency. We see you, we thank you, we appreciate it. And also with all the things going on, with the superintendent search, school assignment, school choice, new buildings, and y'all are talking about surveys and getting input from the community and the stakeholders, parents, students. That's all wonderful. It's a great step. I know you were well intended, but we have to dig deeper than that. It's deeper, it's more than finding the right survey or making sure we have all the correct email addresses on file. I've been told my whole life my opinion matters, that my voice matters, that what I have to contribute is important. Here I am talking to y'all when, yeah, here I am. But many people, especially those who don't look like me, have been told a different narrative. And you know, our whole country has been built on some voices mattering and some voices being silenced. And we have to address that if we're going to get anywhere with equity in our schools. I appreciate those of y'all who attended the Racial Equity Institute's training. I hope you all can get back. There are 2 more in May. There's one in May and one in July. There's also a Latino Challenges workshop that REI puts on that I would hope you would look into as well, the 2-day workshop about the challenges of Latinos, and which is what, 20-some% of our students. So I hope that you all can continue to learn about the challenges that we face. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Josh Cecil.
Good evening, Chairwoman Woodbury, school board members, Dr. Symington. My name is Joshua Cecil. I'm a parent of a first grader at Spies Elementary and a rising kindergartner who will also be attending Spies Elementary, and a 1-year-old who's a few years out. So I I'm here to also speak about HB 490 and 518. First of all, I did just want to say, I don't know who created this agenda, but I'm loving how it's like they're constantly evolving and improving, and this thing on the back is amazing. I'm going to stick this on my fridge. This is really great. So I just want to, again, speak about these bills. So I think that there's just a little bit of confusion about, as you're hearing from people who have spoken, just some confusion about what the impetus for these bills was. You know, and I think it also there's like several bills that are all proposed that all are impacting Forsyth County. So I think there's just a little bit of confusion just about where all this stuff is coming from. I'm only going to speak about 490 and 518. I think that what it all boils down to from my perspective is that we elected you all to oversee the school system and not the county commissioners. And so I tried to find the article. I could have sworn I read it in a newspaper that there was someone who stated that it doesn't hurt to have an extra set of eyes on decisions when it comes to changing school choice. And I'm like, okay, that's great. If you want to have an extra set of eyes, county commissioners, I would say come to school board meetings. Here's a great agenda with all the times that the school board meets that you can happily attend to learn about what's going on. Yeah, I think it's really important that we elected y'all to do your job, and so, regardless of party politics, just when it comes down to you being able to do your job, I hope that you are able to have a united front and being able to keep the power that we have bestowed upon you. In terms of just kind of clarifying some of the positions, I would ask the board to publicly state their support of or opposition to this bill when you all have your discussion later this evening. I think that would just be really helpful for us to hear in the community. So thank you. Thank you.
Our next agenda item is discussion items, and first we have Allison Schaefer, who is going to discuss with us the superintendent search.
Good afternoon, or good evening, Chair Woodbury.
Good evening.
Members of the board and Dr. Symington. We are here to just have a we have a few tidbits we need the board's guidance on as we start to get you into your search and your community forums and your advertising. With me is Jim O'Rourke. So we have 3 things we need to discuss with the board. You had asked at the last meeting about a student survey, so we have provided a draft to the board, and I'm going to let Jim come up and talk about that. And then also we have a few costs that were a little bit more than we had anticipated. We wanted to get approval for that, and then we're going to discuss community forums, and I'll come back up, but I'm going to let Jim talk about those first 2 items.
Thank you, Allison. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. The first document we have to share with you tonight is a draft student survey. We provided these materials in advance, and I hope you are able to pull them up or have had a chance to look at them. Again, we're trying to avoid wordsmithing this with all 9 of you at one time. But we did want to provide a draft for you to review and get some feedback and make sure that we're asking for the information that you want, information that you can then turn around and use as you move forward with the superintendent search. So just taking a brief look at the document itself, I will point out this is a template that will be used to create the survey in SurveyMonkey. So please don't worry too much about the formatting. It'll look much nicer in the online format. The first section there is just a basic introduction, very similar to what we've done for the community and staff, just letting students know that you are interested in receiving their feedback, and also clarifying that their responses will be anonymous. No one will know who has filled out the information in that survey. One thing that we did do for students that we don't necessarily do for the community and staff is explain who the superintendent is and what he or she does. Because as you move into perhaps the middle grades, particularly, students may not always know who that individual is and what their role is in the school system in particular. So we just included a little bit of basic information about that. The first questions, 1 and 2 there, are just some basic demographic information. One thing you will find is that once these survey links make it out into the public, is if folks have something to say, they may just click the first link that they see and answer the questions whether or not they are a member of the community or a student. So we did want to clarify whether or not the folks filling it out were students or not, and if they are students, where they are in school. And certainly, perhaps graduates and former students would be welcome to complete this survey as well. Flipping over to the back, we included some questions, just some quantitative, generic questions about their experience at their school and their experience in the school system since they've been enrolled. Moving on to the next couple sets of questions, we included several open-ended questions to get feedback from students on what they like about their school and the school system, what changes they want to see in their school and the school system, and then from there, what experience do they want? What characteristics, qualities, attributes do they want the new superintendent to have? And one thing that I am particularly interested to see is what questions do your students want you to ask the candidates before you select a superintendent? So we're interested to see what those responses are as well. And then the very last question is just a completely open-ended question. Anything else that students want to say to the board about the search for a new superintendent, and getting as much feedback from them that they didn't feel that they could incorporate into some of their previous responses. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the document. Are these the questions you want to include? Any changes you want to make before we ask for your approval a little bit later? Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just wanted to make two comments about the opening, about the new superintendent will be the leader of the school system, similar to the head of a business. The head of a business analogy often gets us into lots of trouble because people think schools systems should be run like businesses, and yet they're public entities. So I would just try to craft a different term for that. And the one other thing is the superintendent is in charge of the day-to-day operations. One of the things is that a lot of the day-to-day operations actually are in other people are responsible for that, and I don't want people feeling that they should be calling the superintendent about day-to-day operational issues. So I always like to be careful with language that I'm not putting out ideas that taken in another context are not great ideas. So I would say the superintendent oversees the running of the district, but they certainly don't do day-to-day operations, or I hope they don't.
Okay. So something to the, we can certainly take out similar to the head of a business if without that clarifying statement.
They'll be the leader of the school system.
And just leave it there.
It might be helpful to help
middle
and high school students, maybe like, I'm just trying to put.
Like a principal.
Yeah, like the principal over all the principals kind of thing. So they're the principal over all of our schools in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. That might, principal. Yeah.
Very good. And then one thing I'll point out is that we did even though we list some of the individual responsibilities, we did try to clarify at the end that many of those duties can be assigned to other folks, but ultimately the superintendent is accountable. So, but if instead of in charge or oversees the day-to-day operations, is there some other wording there that you're more comfortable with?
The superintendent is responsible for the overall operation, for the overall smooth running of the district. Or, I don't know. Anybody else have any thoughts? So I think the superintendent, is responsible for making sure the district is run well.
And that the district meets its goals.
Yeah.
I think kids would understand that.
All right. Any other feedbacks? We'll incorporate something about making sure the schools run well and that the school system is meeting its goals. Any other feedback regarding the survey? All right, hearing none, I'm going to flip quickly to the next document that we included. I will say that we're not here to talk about all the advertising options again. Your position, your vacancy has been advertised as directed, including the 30 days on AASA on the first page, all the free things at the bottom of the first page there. When we went to advertise on some of the sites on the second page, we had learned that some of the costs, the fees had increased since we had prepared these materials for you. So I tried to highlight those. And the two that came up with an increased cost are Education Week's Top School Jobs. The price there increased from $395 to $495, so you would need to approve that additional expenditure. And then with the Chronicle of Higher Education, not only did the fee increase from $310 to $395, they now only have a 60-day option. And we had, I think, previously ruled out 60 days with AASA because you weren't going to get the full 60-day window there, and certainly now, coming back 2 weeks later, we're not going to get the full 60 days. So you've got to decide, not only is it worth that additional expense, but you'd only get the benefit of about 35, 36 of those 60 days. So we would, again, when we get to the action items later, we'd ask for your approval for those additional expenses. Are there any questions about?
Can you tell us if, well, or how many folk have possibly applied?
I'll defer to Allison on that.
We have had a few applications, but it is all early on in the process. I will say that we have had a handful, but we have had a lot of inquiry, and we have been speaking to a lot of folks, and we have had a lot of people starting or looking at the application. So there's a handful completed, but that's actually good for this early in the process. So we think you're going to be fine and have great candidates and have a lot of candidates, or a good number. So if that helps.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
The next thing I think we wanted to talk about was the community forums. After several conversations with the chair and others, we looked at the possibility of 5 forums. Tuesdays and Thursdays sounded like they are better days, and a suggestion was made that a Saturday also be included. So we have come up with a proposal which is appended to your materials. We have basically a window of about 3 weeks, and we're trying to spread this out a little bit during those 3 weeks. So we have recommended the April 23rd, which is a Tuesday, April 25th, which is a Thursday, May 2nd, which is a Thursday, May 4th, which is a Saturday, and May 7th, which is a Tuesday. Again, that keeps us one Saturday and Tuesdays and Thursdays, which sound like they work better for your board. So we would need, and then I think also, Jim, would you give me the list of the places? I think your staff has come up with some ideas of places that, I think there are about 9 places on this proposed list. They include East Forsyth High School, Northwest Middle School, Parkland High School, Reagan High School, Southwest Elementary School, Walkertown Middle and High School, Wiley Magnet Middle, Forsyth County Central Library, and the Goler Community Center. So we would need the board to decide where they would like to, of those or other places they would like to have these forums, and we can decide based on the availability where of these folks, or which of these places go which night or which Saturday, because I think that's going to be up to availability. So and we welcome the board's feedback about that. I don't know if you want to discuss that now, or do you want to do that as an action item later?
The one issue I see is the April 23rd possibly, because I think we have another meeting, at least in that, 2 meetings. So we have curriculum and a call finance committee meeting on April 23rd.
And possibly
The 25th might be an issue as well.
I think it's the budget has to get approved.
Well, we could add April 30th, which is, I believe, a Tuesday. As a board meeting. Okay, that's why we avoided that one. Okay, well, help me out with what other kind of days.
So one of my suggestions might be I know for me Wednesday mornings work, but for people who are available during the day, maybe a Wednesday morning. I think Saturday is good. I think trying,
there are some people who don't like to drive at night, or their kids are in school during the day, and that's a good time for them to come. So I don't know how people would feel about, say, a weekday morning at the public library.
I'm fine with the morning.
So Wednesday morning, 1 or 2, I mean, help me out there.
What
We
do
also
you
have
all
business
think?
people who may want to come, and they could come during the
Right,
day.
and I
as well.
think there was a request from the chamber or some members about having a meeting at Innovation Quarter or Biotech Place. I think doing a morning meeting at Goler. I think just trying to get out into the community, both in the day and the evenings. There are people that don't like to drive at night or who would have childcare issues. So,
okay.
I think for those that work, and we have a whole lot that are very involved in our schools that do work, and I think to be able to have some sort of lunch meeting would be most helpful also.
Okay, so I'm hearing lunch, a Wednesday morning, a lunch, and we have a conflict with the 23rd and possibly the 25th. Is that correct? Yes. Okay.
Could we substitute the April 23rd for that Wednesday morning, for a Wednesday morning?
Yeah, so Wednesday the 24th?
Yeah, yes.
April 24th, I think, is empty bowls, so it would either do it like early, around 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not early. For work,
Okay.
people at work need to have a meeting like at 8 a.m. and then head on to work. Or that's
So you want a
getting kinda
morning
late.
meeting, so when people can come before work?
Right.
Okay.
Have you had experiences with early mornings, like 7:30, 8 o'clock?
We have not done, no one has asked for those before. We have had Saturday meetings. We have had Saturday meetings before, and evening meetings, and meetings during the day for business folks. So, but the early mornings I have not had experience with. So we can always try to see if that would be, some people like to wake up early and come to an early morning meeting. I mean, 8 o'clock in the morning, would that be sufficient? It is not mandatory that every board member be at every meeting, although obviously it's desirable that you be at as many as possible. So just keep that in mind as well.
I do like the diversity of putting the meetings out there for different times.
So Wednesday morning, the 24th, you said at 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock.
work?
That is empty balls. Yeah.
That's what? What's it called?
What time does that event start?
It's a lunchtime.
Oh, it's lunchtime, okay.
Is that a location? I'm trying to hear what you're saying.
No, Empty Bowls is the big annual fundraiser for
okay.
the Second Harvest Food
Okay,
Bank.
so
And some of us are volunteering to serve during that time.
In that morning?
And it starts at, I think my time starts at 10:30 in the morning.
So would 8 o'clock work then?
8 would be great.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, I thought it was like MT Bowls, it was a school or something. I couldn't hear that. Okay, so Wednesday, the 24th at 8, Thursday, the 25th in the evening? Does that work? You said there might be there's a chance there'll be another meeting that night? Okay, so we could do that, again, do you have other meetings that day besides an evening meeting? Help me out here.
For the work session. It is.
We do, if I may interject, we do have a scheduled meeting that afternoon beginning at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
So if it's possible to do something earlier in the day.
Could we do a lunch meeting that day? Would that work for that day? A lunch meeting? That way, should be out by 4 o'clock, way before 4 o'clock. Does that work? Bring your lunch and come talk? Okay. Okay.
Any other?
Okay, and then Thursday, May 2nd, Saturday, May 4th and Tuesday, May 7th, is there any conflict with those? We could make the 2 evening meetings, the 2nd and the 7th could be evening meetings, and then on Saturday would be an afternoon. Does that work?
What was the, can we go back to April 25th? We did see on April 24th a sort of an open day for school board. But what was the?
We were looking at a
proposed?
lunch meeting on the 25th, but if you want to do.
The 24th was the 8 to 10.
8 to 10.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then a lunch meeting on the 25th?
At noon.
At noon. And then evening meetings on the 2nd and 7th of May. Is this 6:30 a good time? Is that the normal time you guys meet?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Saturday, May 4th, I would suggest about 2 o'clock, if that works for folks. Okay?
As Elizabeth had stated, some of the business community, some of the medical community would like to see if Venture Cafe would be available for a meeting. Have you explored that?
Venture Cafe?
It's in Innovation Quarter, and it would hold about 250 plus.
We can certainly do that. We haven't explored any specific locations. Your staff has been working, I think, on that.
Okay.
But we can see if that's available for the lunchtime meeting.
Or one of the dinners when they get off work. I think they were looking for an evening meeting.
Okay. The business community wants an evening meeting?
Well, to accommodate the medical school, I mean, in the hospitals.
We will do our best to accommodate all of these requests. Obviously, the location is going to be an issue on specific dates, so.
I would also like to propose a school that is on the eastern part of our school district. I know I see East Forsyth, but that's kind of considered more the county area versus inside the city area. So a lot
Career
of
Center would be a great school.
So there's a career center, Carver High School.
So either the Career Center or Carver High School would be in the eastern part of the city?
The schools, if I may, the schools that were on the original list were placed there for accessibility of media center, as well as the accessibility of parking. And so just to keep in mind that we want to make sure that folks, that the space is accessible to all folks who would like to be able to attend, just so you know what the criteria were.
Okay.
Not that that excludes either of those suggestions.
Thank you.
Okay, we will work on that as well. Any other, I've heard the Innovation Center and one of the eastern areas locations, eastern city area locations. Anything else? Just.
Do we just have one Saturday listed, or,
Yes, ma'am.
is there a possibility maybe 2 Saturdays for people that are working that would be able to come on a Saturday?
I think one Saturday is enough. I don't think that's going to be, just like one morning meeting, it's
Okay.
going to be enough. It's not going to be, it's not going to get that much more attendance.
Okay, I'm just one of those workers, you know, so I'm throwing it in for
We are
them.
trying evening and a Saturday and a lunchtime and an early morning before work. So hopefully, folks that want to make it out. And remember, we have the surveys, which will go out once we get the student survey approved. We'll get them out in the next day or two as soon as that's approved. So the other thing that I wanted to briefly talk to the board about was the format. We've had you can have a public comment kind of format like you've had today with the regular public comment, or one of the formats that's very popular is a sort of a kitchen table format where folks would come in and they would have a group and they would discuss what they're looking for at a round table, for example, and then each group would report out the characteristics that they had discussed, and it gives more meaningful input and discussion opportunities for everyone, and we just think that's a really great format. So we wanted to kind of run that by the board and see which of those you're really interested in, or if there's some other format you'd like.
Can we do a combination of the two?
You can. Sometimes we've had boards that did a kitchen table format at the beginning, and then at the end, if anybody still wanted to say something individually, they could come up. So you can do them both at the same meeting, actually, if you want to do that. Again, you're trying to look for maximum opportunity for people to comment and have input, and some people might feel like they get to have more discussion and more interaction at a table, and then we would take all that information and report it out as that. Does that sound like a good format? So both, an opportunity for public comment, additionally at the end? Okay, that's what we needed some feedback on. So we will need, at the appropriate time, board approval to work with the dates and locations that we have discussed, and just come up with a schedule. It's getting to the point where we really need to be able to advertise these in order for people to know about them. So if we could get that accomplished tonight, it would be really important for us to do that. The same with the surveys. The survey, we really need to get that going. So if we can get that approval at the appropriate time, Madam Chair, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have grievances scheduled for the evening of the 7th. So I know that just takes 3 people out of play, but and they start at 6:30, but sometimes those things don't wrap. Isn't it the 7th? Did you tell me?
Yes, but they begin at 4 o'clock.
Right. So from 4 to 6. I mean, is that with assignments? I mean, what?
That's your regular scheduled grievance
Just regular
session, so that's not student
So
assignments.
you don't think that would cause a problem? Everyone would be able to get there.
You know, it really depends on what's on the agenda, and at this point, we don't know. That's kind of too far out. But if the agenda's short, it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
So, but we don't know what the agenda's going to be. FYI.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next discussion item is the North Carolina House Bill 518. Deon Jenkins is going to provide some information first for us.
So this is a bill that needs not much further introduction. But as you all know, Board, the House Bill 518 was introduced recently that, as many of the members of the public commented on today, proposes to limit the board's authority with regard to student assignment. In a nutshell, the bill proposes that any changes to your student assignment plan, whether it's policies, attendance zones, magnet school, the choice process, or any other school assignment or school choice policy, would need to first be approved by the county commissioners before going into effect. So, Madam Chair, I will turn it over to you to facilitate discussion of this, but that's essentially what this House bill is proposing.
Question, could you, could you let us know about the state statute that gives us the authority to govern here as a school board entity?
So North Carolina General Statute Section 115C-47 is the statute that delineates the various authorities and responsibilities of the school board. And one of those authorities is the authority to regulate attendance zones for students.
Okay, thank you. So now I think the board can have some open discussion so that the public can kind of hear our thoughts about the House Bill 518. So we can just, I guess, start to weigh in. Anybody want to get us started?
So, Madam Chair, so have we had, so first let me say I'm opposed to House Bill 518. Have we had conversations with staff? I mean, has someone reached out to our representatives to find out what concerns are, or have the two representatives reached out to our staff to have any discussion? I know sometimes our local delegation will reach out and have, you know, questions or through email or other things. So I didn't know if there had been any conversation like that. And I would like to see that we I mean, I think there, you know, we could send a resolution and we could do things like that, but I think at the end of the day, we need to work on, you know, relationships, and I think some of that could come with some meeting in person and some conversation around that. These are folks that are elected and people that we continue to work with and build relationships with, and so I still think there's good conversation, face-to-face conversation goes a long way.
So before I start, I will make my individual declaration that I'm opposed to both 490 and 518. I will say that I have had conversations with some of the state representatives and a senator, so Senator Lowe, Representative Montgomery, Representative Terry. And so those are the folks that I've had conversations. I have not had conversations with Deborah Conrad or Donnie Lambert, but I agree with Board Member Jones that I would like to have conversations so that we can try to work this out on the front end and continue to, you know, move our state and city, county forward.
I'm opposed to these bills as well, and I'm wondering how much time do we have to speak to our government legislators?
So from my understanding, Dion, could you, you said something about this week there may be discussion about 490.
According to the North Carolina Legislative online calendar, House Bill 490, I believe, is on for discussion tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. However, House Bill 518 has been referred to the Education Committee, and they had a committee meeting this past Tuesday, and I believe every Tuesday they have meetings, and so I do not know if it is on a future agenda yet. I will not know until Thursday what their agenda is for next Tuesday's meeting.
So I would think that at least what we would try to do is get some kind of correspondence to the two authors of the bill to, you know, let them know what our thoughts are as a school board, so that it could be considered possibly tomorrow at their meeting for the 490. But that's just, you know, my thought about that.
I also am opposed. And the only thing I know about this bill is what I read in the paper. I have not been contacted. No one has talked to me about it at all. And my information only comes from our newspaper.
Did you want to say something?
I just wanted to support Chair Woodbury and her recommendation that we get correspondence before tomorrow morning, as I'm also opposed to both bills.
Yeah, I'm opposed to both bills, and I urge everyone to use your voice, call, write, do whatever it takes to make sure that your voice that elected us gets heard.
So, Chair.
Yes.
Yes, I have two different comments to make. One is, my biggest concern with 518 is that once you start taking away authority from local bodies based on how you're afraid they will or won't move, you're basically saying you don't believe in democracy. And I think the issue is not so, I think that it's important to separate the content from the process, and the process really undermines the authority of local school boards. And so for that reason, it is really a dangerous bill. I also am probably the only person on the board who has lived through the 2008 to 10 move to nonpartisan staggered terms that did happen at this school board. And it affected just one election cycle. It was the 2010 election cycle, and it was to become a nonpartisan board and to have staggered terms and to divvy it up. And that was actually driven by a lot of interest in the community. That election happened, and then it was overturned again. I personally, having lots of longevity on the board, believe in staggered terms. I think they're useful. However, I think the way that this is being rolled out is really damaging. I think the way you do it is one person from District 1, 2 people from District 2, and alternating 1 and 2 every 4 years. I think it is, again, very undemocratic to talk about taking away terms that have already been won by people. That happened. It's already happened, and you've made basically a contract with voters. I think going forward, my personal request would be, I would love nonpartisan school boards because I think the work that we do should not be partisan in its very actions. I don't hear anybody bringing that up, and I do believe in staggered terms, but not unequitable staggered terms. There is no reason that it cannot be done in a fair way that does not put a whole school board up on elections every 4 years. So I actually believe in staggering terms, but I believe that the way that this is being proposed is not good for our district, and I think it's really meant to undermine the relationship with voters and the board.
I would recommend sending a letter of opposition to committee members who will hear the bill tomorrow in Raleigh.
I would definitely support that.
I want to thank the people that are here tonight that stood up for our school boards, the ones that stood up and talked and seemed to let us know that we are trying our best. We are trying to be more open, and we appreciate you being here. And more importantly, we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'll just say that I'm like Elizabeth on the staggered terms bill. But I'm opposed to the school choice bill as well. I think it's quite an overreach, and I was a little bit surprised, just as many of you were. And yes, it is true that not a one of us had anything to do with that bill. I just want to clarify that. And it is interesting to think, if you look back through history over the last few decades, this kind of thing happens. You know, the state election cycle is determined by the General Assembly, as are districts in the school board. And so back in the early 90s, the same kind of thing went on with a different group of people in control in Raleigh. So this is not the first time, just for a little historical perspective. But I'm in agreement with the rest of these ladies. We can send our wishes up to our leaders tomorrow.
Excuse me, I am also opposed to both bills. I feel like these bills are very disrespectful, they're insulting, and they're overreaching. I do wonder what the purpose is behind these bills. I think that I understand. I think that when the voters voted in November, they made some decisions. They decided who they wanted to be on this board to represent them. They knew they had the opportunity to vote back on this board members who were on the board who ran for election, and they made the decision not to vote them back. I don't think that the legislators have the right to decide who will sit on this board, how long they will sit on this board, and after the decision has been made by the voters, I don't think they have the right to decide to take the power away from us and give it to someone else. That is totally wrong. I have another plan. I plan to be in Raleigh in the morning, and I'm asking anybody. The way I see it, this bill affects your rights. This bill affects our rights. It affects the rights of every voter in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. And if we allow people to take our rights away, this is just the beginning. It's no telling how far it will go. So your vote counts, my vote counts, and our voices will be heard. So if you'd like to join me, I'll be there in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more discussion from board members? Okay.
I think it should be noted that it was unanimous opposition.
Thank you.
At least to 518.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. So if there are no more discussion about.
I would like to add on to that it was unanimous on 518 and 490 with significant changes.
Mm-hmm. Our next discussion item will be the Climate, Culture, and Equity Special Committee report by Board Member Burke.
So the Community Climate and Equity Committee met on April the 1st. We had an outstanding meeting. We were fortunate enough to have teachers from 7 of our high schools and students representing 5 of our high schools. We had 2 separate panels for discussions, and the moderator for our panel discussions was Dr. Roseborough. She did an outstanding job. Our students and our teachers also did an outstanding job. They were open, they were honest, and our students, we were so proud of the way they were able to articulate. No one had the questions in advance, so the responses were organic. They were not rehearsed. The questions were specifically designed to give us the the Community Climate and Equity Committee, an idea of the perceptions that the students and teachers have within their schools as it pertains to equity and as it pertains to the climate. So we had a great meeting, and we're going to use that information going forward so that we can improve equity and climate within the schools in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Finance Committee report by Board Member Kaplan.
The Finance Committee met today at 4 o'clock. Frida Lashmet reviewed the budget amendment number 6 and transfer number 6. Kim Slusher presented us with a budget overview, which included the 2019-2020 budget timeline, budget priority recommendations, and budget implications. We will have a special called Finance Committee meeting for all board members on Thursday from 4 to 6 to continue our budget work and hopefully move toward a preliminary budget to present to the county commissioners. Kevin Sherrill gave a very nice PowerPoint presentation on replacing our current phone system as well as finance options to pay for it. All of this information will be made available online in detail. Meeting was adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have Board Member Crawley, and she will give us a report from Buildings and Grounds.
Thank you. Buildings and Grounds met earlier today. The first item was about our drinking water safety. The results were in. We've had Jake Carter, George Donati, and Alan Barony of Wake Forest do the testing through grant funds, and they tested for 8 different elements, and they looked at cafeteria sinks and water fountains in all of the facilities. All samples were well below the maximum contaminant levels set forward by the EPA, so that was really good news. We also looked at the Haynes Park user agreement, and one of the agreement is a 20-year agreement. So the one that's coming up for renewal was originated in 1999, And in those 20 years since this agreement was last signed, much has changed. There's approximately 2,500 students who attend the schools adjacent to the park. And as you all know, with the growth of youth sports, and especially girls participating in sports and other after-school activities, there's many more teams from those schools who would also use the park, including sports like soccer, field hockey, lacrosse. So the concern brought up by me today was just making sure that we understand the importance that this agreement not only meets our current needs, but is forward-looking and continuing to serve our students in the best way possible. We also had a report about a disposition of surplus property vehicles. We have one vehicle that we discussed there, and then Colin Moore gave us a bond update, including a way that anybody can access the information about the 2016 bond, and that's at forsyth.cc./bond tracker. So if you want any kind of updated information on bond funds and those projects, that's where you can go. And that was the Buildings and Grounds report.
Thank you. The next order of business on the agenda is our action items. The first one is for the adoption of the National Autism Awareness Month resolution. Is there a motion?
Second.
All in favor? I think that's unanimous. The second item is the adoption of the National Volunteer Week resolution. Is there a motion?
Motion. Second.
All in favor? I think that's unanimous. The next item is the approval of the Superintendent Search Student Survey. Is there a motion?
Motion. Second.
All in favor? It's unanimous. The next item is the approval of the Superintendent Search for the increased advertising costs. Is there a motion?
Second.
All in favor? I think that was unanimous too. Okay. The next item is the approval of the Superintendent Search for the community forums. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? That's unanimous. The last item is approval of the disposition of surplus property, which was a vehicle. Is there a motion?
Motion.
All in favor? I think that was unanimous. Okay, thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the consent agenda items. We have the approval of the meeting minutes for March 26, 2019, and approval of the general personnel report. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? All right. Our next item is, of course, our meeting that's open to the public. Before we begin the meeting, the section of our meeting in which everyone or anyone can comment on anything, we say good night or good evening to our Cable 2 viewers. Thank you for watching, and this will conclude our broadcast. At this time, we will...
Thank you for joining us on your school channel, Cable 2.